We are taking a look at the Caroma electric scooter. A few little cuts of plastic and the scooter pops right out. Comes in this nicely assembled box. As you can see, it's professionally packaged and nothing should be damaged during shipping. Removing the styrofoam is quite easy. Plastic comes off, one zip tie. The scooter is folded up and there's just one lever right here. Press that down and it comes together. Few accessories included in the box like a charger and the handlebar extensions, and no tools required to get you riding. Here's the scooter unfolded. As you can see, it's a pretty nice construction, mostly steel, some plastic, just a couple handlebar quick release extensions to pop in to get you riding. Once you got both handlebars installed on the top of the scooter, this thing is nearly ready to ride. Once you press the power button to the inward position, then you go on top of the screen, pull the plastic off, and then there's a actual power button here. You're gonna hold that for 3 seconds and the bike is nearly ready to ride. There is one little trick, so you gotta keep watching. So the scooter features non-pneumatic tires. The motor is located inside of the front wheel. The front brake or the brake lever is also inside of the front wheel, so please exercise caution because everything's in the front as far as the business. Dissecting the construction of the electric scooter, we can see it's built fairly well. All the bolts were fully tight. It's also a very good idea to check all the fasteners on anything new. Doesn't matter if it's high-end construction or cheap. Just check all these bolts. It does come with a couple Allen keys so you can check the installation of all the bolts to make sure everything's tight so it doesn't come apart on your first ride. The battery is located inside of this tube, so you don't have to fuss or fuss. Everything's just ready to go. All the controls are very intuitive and easy to figure out and use. I didn't read the manual, but you probably should. The red button, that is the brake for the front wheel, and the right button is the throttle. Comes with a little bell to warn pedestrians. On the left here, we have the charge port and the toggle switch for power on. Featuring bicycle-like grips on the outside and those quick connect handlebar releases, you just press the button and the handlebar extensions will come off the bike. I'm very pleased to inform you the digital display is extremely simple and there's almost no learning curve. There's a right arrow and a left arrow that controls the power up and the power down. There's also a headlight. You hold the power button on and it will turn a headlight on. Now, I tested the headlight quite thoroughly and it's just to tell people where you are. It doesn't really project forward, but it is a nice touch. The Caroma scooter features a skateboard-like grip on the top so your feet aren't gonna slip off on a rainy day. Now, that being said, I wouldn't take this on a rainy day. If we take a look at the rear fender, this is also the rear brake. I will be testing that in a second. Very important note here. Okay, so when you try to start out and you push the throttle, it will not lurch forward. This is a built-in safety mechanism. So in order for the throttle to work, you need to push off the ground and then press the throttle to get the electric assist to work. I initially thought it was broken, but once I pushed off the ground, it started working fabulous. Now, my first impressions on the Caroma scooter, I've never been on an electric scooter and it feels pretty fun. I started out in the highest power mode like any bro would, and let me tell you, it's a little bit too torquey. I didn't like it in the most powerful setting. Dialing it back to the middle setting, it felt pretty right. So I went to the lowest setting and it felt a little bit weak. For the remainder of my ride, I just left it in the middle power setting because it felt the most responsible and responsive. Being a non-scooter person, I decided that it was best to ride in the goofy foot position. Right foot forward, whatever feels comfortable, left foot forward, right foot forward. Just make sure you're riding it like this because you're gonna be more stable. Taking this into the parking lot, it's very important to pay attention to where you're riding to not go into the potholes because this has non-pneumatic tires and there's also no suspension. Now, this is the 250 watt variant of this scooter. It's also the weakest one. I just really enjoyed the scooter in the middle power setting and pushing off the ground when I was going uphill. The red lever on the handlebars slows down the front wheel. We have a rear brake, so basically you're gonna Fred Flintstone with one of your feet and push the fender down into the wheel. This will allow the rear brake to slow the bike down, so if you were on a really steep hill, you're gonna be using 2 brakes. I found the Fred Flintstone brake to work pretty good. I was kind of surprised. There's a little bit of an insert underneath the fender to protect it, and I was kind of shocked by my experience on this electric scooter. It gets you into really tight places you wouldn't normally ride a bicycle because of its super narrow profile. I spent the day exploring different corners and facets of different places, and it was actually extremely fun. The scooter's lightweight, about 22 pounds, was pretty easy to bring inside the store, and no one seemed to give me much problems. On my little adventure mission, I ran into a fellow electric scooter rider. So he basically told me his scooter has about 3,000 miles on it. I'm not sure what brand it was, I forgot to ask. But it's really interesting to see people use this as their main commuter. I don't know the brand of that scooter, but I was kind of shocked that it had 3,000 miles on it. I know all the haters out there just want to hear the bad stuff, so nothing's perfect. As you can see, there's no give in the rear tire because there's no air in it. They're like a solid piece of rubber. After about 7 miles of riding, it becomes a little bit harsh on the sidewalk because all those cracks inside of the sidewalk, and it gets a little bit jarring. There's some flex in the front pole coming out of the front tire. I thought it was maybe a loose bolt. I went through, checked all the bolts after my long ride, and nothing was there. This may be built into the scooter, I'm not entirely sure. It doesn't feel like it's gonna break, it's just a little bit of slop in the front. I was pretty impressed with the Caroma scooter considering its price tag, and it was extremely fun to go play around on different areas you normally wouldn't go because I usually ride bikes. Definitely staying in my quiver of electric vehicles, and I definitely recommend it so far. Taking the scooter out for some additional testing, I put it inside my car to see how difficult it was. All the weight of the scooter is in the pole because that's where the battery is, and if you can't lift 25 pounds up, you may struggle. Folding the scooter to the upright position is typically not difficult unless your fingers are frozen, and it does require some force to fold it upright. Finding some steeper hills to test the brakes on, I can pleasantly tell you that this scooter can stop in a reasonable amount of time. Now, this neighborhood is pretty rough as far as sidewalks go, and the scooter is a little bit jarring on all the cracks and patches as you can see here. Now, this is the 250 watt variant of the Caroma scooter, the weakest one you can get. I had to put it into the top assistance level and it could only crawl up hills. So if you're going to be riding on hills, definitely go for a more powerful variant that they do offer. Putting the scooter back into the folded position does require some level of force, but it doesn't take too much room up inside of your car or just in general. Okay, I'm 6'2" here, and as you can see, the handlebar is a little bit on the low side. You know, they made the one size fits all to keep manufacturing costs down to make the cost lower for you to buy. So here, I can't complain too much. I am fully able to ride the bike, but it is on the smaller side if you're taller than 6 feet tall. Now, all things considered with this scooter and its low price tag, I was pretty impressed. The one thing I would like is some suspension, you know, because I'm an off-road guy. Those small wheels are pretty terrifying on rough sidewalks, so keep that in mind. But if you ride on smooth stuff, this thing is absolutely great. Super impressed by the range. I got over 10 miles on this scooter. I hope I served you well by being a fair reviewer of this scooter. If you're interested in it, there's linked in the description for you to buy on Amazon.